Michael Swango was an average all-American boy. He was good-looking, athletic, intelligent, hard-working, and even played the clarinet. He graduated as valedictorian in 1972 from the Quincy Catholic Boys High School. He began attending Quincy University in 1973. At the end of his first year of college, his girlfriend broke it off with him. After this, he became obsessed with the military and guns. He withdrew from college and enrolled in the Marines. He was awarded honorable discharge in 1976, then returned to college and continued in the medical field. Every time a professor would correct him or make any minor suggestions, Michael would drop to the floor and do push-ups. He was obsessed with this form of self-punishment, and students would constantly catch him compulsively doing push-ups, jumping jacks, or jogging. Joseph Michael Swango was born October 21st, 1954. He was the middle child of 3 boys. Their mother was emotionally distant and their father was frequently absent. His father, Virgil Swango, kept a very militant household when he was around. The children were accustomed to marching stiffly and hearing their father yell. Virgil had been in the Vietnam War and still was part of the military. He chose to work as far from home as he could when he had the chance. When he returned home from war, alcoholism consumed him, and he later died due to cirrhosis of the liver. After his death, a scrapbook of his was found filled with gruesome military murders and news clippings, crimes and accidents, and a particularly villainous photograph of a Vietnamese National Police commander executing point-blank a member of the Viet Cong in early 1968. After seeing this gruesome book, young Michael and his mother began putting together a scrapbook of his very own. His fascination with dying patients was established. During school he worked as a lazy ambulance attendant, even letting a woman who was suffering from a heart attack drive herself to the hospital. He also faked many of his check-up hours, and for the ones that he attended, all of the patients that were on their way to health suddenly found themselves fighting for their life once more. 5 of his patients died. He ended up failing his OBGYN course, but his professors let him retake the course. He graduated summa cum laude a year after his class in 1979 and was awarded the American Chemical Society Award. In 1983 he took a surgical internship position at Ohio State University Medical Center for Neurosurgery. Again, patients that were on their way to stable health began dying mysteriously until he was caught injecting medicine into a patient who then became ill and died. After this incident he was fired, but was never directly connected to the death and therefore was not convicted. In 1984, Michael began working as an emergency medical technician. Soon after his employment, many of his co-workers got violently ill. One afternoon, a pitcher of iced tea was left alone with Swango while everyone else was out on a call. When they returned, they had the pitcher tested, and as it had been suspected, contained lethal doses of arsenic. The following year he was sentenced with 5 years imprisonment for assaulting and poisoning co-workers. Newly released from prison in 1989, he found work as a counselor at the State Career Development Center in Virginia, but was soon fired after a co-worker caught him working on his scrapbook of disasters. Over the years he had kept up with this disturbing hobby, and collected pictures and news clippings of gruesome car and airplane crashes, murders, savage raping, and arson. Coal employees in Virginia began facing severe stomach pain once Swango started working with them. Many workers were admitted to the hospital from the intense sickness. At the same time, Michael Swango met Christine Kinney, a young bubbly redhead that worked as a nurse at Riverside Hospital. They immediately fell in love and were engaged to be married. Around a year later, Swango decided to up the ante and get a legal name change. Now as Daniel J. Adams, he forged legal documents saying that he was involved in a fist fight with a co-worker and served 6 months of prison, instead of the 5 years that he actually served for poisoning his co-workers. He then forged a restoration of civil rights, saying that he was a clean and re-established man who could function fully in society in a respectful manner. After these forgeries, he began working at the Sanford Used Medical Center in South Dakota. But after attempting to join the American Medical Association, a more thorough background check was initiated. Depositing conviction was discovered and he was fired from Sanford. Swango entered the psychiatric residence program at the State University of New York at Stony Brook School of Medicine under the name Michael Kirk. Again, his patients began dying mysteriously. Throughout this time, Kristen Kinney had been suffering from severe migraines while she was with Swango, so she decided to move back home to Virginia. After leaving Swango, the migraines suddenly stopped. 4 months had passed when 27-year-old Kinney committed suicide. Traces of arsenic were found in her system. Her mother, Sharon Cooper, got in contact with a nurse who was a friend of Kinney's, and she was able to call 125 hospitals and schools and 1,000 teaching hospitals to warn them about Swango. After this, Swango was fired. Swango fled to Zimbabwe, where he got a job as a doctor with forged documents. He stayed there for 4 years, and then was caught and sentenced to 3.5 years of prison. He was only charged with forgery because they could not pin any of the mysterious deaths on him. That was until the year 2000, when he was sentenced life imprisonment without the possibility of parole due to the murder of Cynthia Ann McGee. Cynthia was 19 when she was hospitalized from a car crash injury in 1984, and Swango gave her a lethal dose of potassium that killed her. He finally pleaded guilty for the murder that had occurred 16 years before.